Hi everybody, this is Treasure Jenny, and I want to welcome you to the Life Work Podcast, where we share the stories of Christ-centered leaders who are making a difference in their life work. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to encourage you to check out our last week's episode with Dr. Melissa Davis, our new Agri-Business Professor here at Williams. In part one of her story, she shared how growing up in a small town in Tennessee sparked her passion for the land, how 9/11 reshaped her plans to be a park ranger, and how the winding road eventually led her to a PhD in plant pathology and a calling to prepare the next generation of agricultural leaders. It's such a powerful reminder that your purpose often grows out of an unexpected place. We also have more preview days coming up, and don't forget, you can apply to Williams for free, and you'll find links for all that in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. We're so glad you're here. Now on to today's episode.
Welcome to the Life Work Podcast. We are again delighted to welcome Melissa Davis with us today. Thank you for being with us yet again.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We had a delightful conversation in our last podcast about your personal journey and how the Lord led you into the vocation that you currently are serving. I wanted to dig down specifically a little bit more into that vocation. But before we get into agriculture and agribusiness and the calling of that, you mentioned something before we started the podcast about the readings you've been doing lately and how, I don't want to put words in your mouth, my interpretation of those comments were kind of getting your world rocked. Some things you thought, some perspectives you had, and now in your reading, you're having to go back and maybe refine or update that thinking. What were you talking about? What did you mean?
Well, I've always thought of agriculture as a calling as far as the profession and what it means on the scientific level for the whole world, not just our nation. But you introduced me to Dorothy Sayers' Why Work?
Yes.
And the fact that it was written by a woman in 1945, right after World War II, where the country was having to make a decision based on like all the people that had been in factories working towards the war. Now, what do you do? The war's over. Yeah. So how do people work? What are they going to do now? What's the attitude of work now that we're not working toward a mission? And it's a book that I encourage anybody to read, but also read several times because it's almost so profound, and it's a very short book, but there's so much in it that it should rock your world.
It should.
Especially as an educator, because our job is to teach students and not actually also to model, why work is important, even in our own profession. But I've just taught agriculture to this point and science to this point as something you need to, you got to learn facts. You got to learn the scientific method. You have to learn. I've never taught it from the perspective of, let me give you the tools to become that servant, that worker. And I'm having to reframe the way I'm talking.
Oh, I love this. That's good.
When I bring for example, there was an article in the paper about a recent court decision. The Marino family was involved with the Department of Labor, and I'll just keep it short because it was a huge deal. It's been going on for a decade, and the courts finally ruled that this Marino family, what they did was not wrong. And so they were vindicated after 10 years of losing everything, and they did lose everything. And none of that court decision changed that. So they won their court case, but they've lost everything. They lost their fourth generation farm and all this sort of stuff, but they were fighting to do the right thing. They knew they were right. They were not, they were being accused of being bad people, basically, in a nutshell. And so I brought this into the classroom, read them excerpts, like this is what happened to this family over 10 years. At any point, they could have quit fighting. They already lost their farm. It got sold off to pay for the attorney fees. All these bad things happen to these people. And honestly, it's a Job story, really. And they kept on and they kept on. And the reason they kept on is they knew that if they quit and didn't fight the Department of Labor, that they would not set a precedent for all the other farmers across the nation. And so their whole calling, even if they didn't realize it at the time, they realized it in the end, was that even though they'd lost everything, they were working toward having a law in place where no one could do this to any other farm. And I mentioned to the students your convocation speech about a calling. And I said, if you guys can just look at these stories like this as this was that family's calling.
Yeah.
they will forever live in our law books as setting a precedent where other farmers forever have a protection against, something that was just a mini corruption within a department. It doesn't mean the whole Department of Labor is bad. It's just, there was just a mini corruption there, and they took care of it. Something that could have taken a lot of farmers out.
Yeah.
But when you present it, and I'm just using that one example, when you present your lessons to students, if you can make those connections, like Dorothy's saying, like mention it, make that part of your, if that's part of your work, you're also creating an environment where that's their work. Not everything that is bad or good that happens to you is necessarily for you. Yeah. It could be for others.
That's right.
And that's your work.
That's right. Well, one of the things when I first came across her essay, a couple of takeaways for me, and they have continued to grow as I continue to go back and read it. And by the way, to our listeners, this is available in public domain. You can Google it, and you can find the essay anywhere on the PDF on lots of places, so you don't have to purchase the book or the booklet. One thing that struck me from the essay was, of all the things that she was arguing that England could do to recover from the war, she didn't argue let's get better treaties with surrounding nations, although they needed to and probably would. She didn't argue for a better economic system, a better economy, although they certainly needed to rebuild the economy. There were a lot of things. Her argument was, we will recover from this war through work. The answer for her for moving forward, among many complex answers involved in that, was we need to work our way forward. So taking the title from her essay and her presentation, I'm asking you the question, Dr. Davis, why work?
Because we're called to work. In the Bible, it says that that's our profession. That was from the very first part of Genesis. We are to work. What you're working toward is the greater vision that God has that we a lot of times can't even see, and we may not even understand. Maybe even on our deathbeds we may not understand, but I think you put one foot in front of the other and you listen for your next calling, listen for your next move that he wants you to make, and then hopefully it makes sense. But even if it doesn't, you've worked toward the greater good in some capacity. It may not be pretty, it may not be fun, it may cost you everything, like some people that you can read about throughout history, but also even recently. It may cost you everything, but the goal is to work and work toward that ultimate salvation.
Yeah. Her essay has two embedded tenets. One, work has an intrinsic value, that there's a good in a righteously done work. There is good just in the work itself. And then she has the instrumental value, that there is a benefit to others. That's the whole argument. We'll benefit as a nation in the intrinsic value of work as it moves into the instrumental part, that we will derive good from our work to help other people. We will love our neighbor by doing good work. So in light of that, in light of what you just said and the vision and the passion that you just communicated, let's talk about your area here at Williams. You are on the front end of helping us launch the Agri-Business program here. What does that mean? What do you want this program to look like for our students and then through them in the broader agriculture community?
That's a great question. I can see what's being revealed as far as the education goes, the classes, the typical things you would see in a college. But I am on my knees for what that means for our workforce in the area. Yeah. Whether it's with meat processing or the egg farm. Like I'm begging for those answers, because it's not my vision, it'll be God's. He sees the whole picture. He knows what we're supposed to do with this, right? And I literally don't have that answer because it's not mine to give. I truly believe that it will be revealed to us. I'm talking to as many people as I can, and there's a little piece here, and I'm like, okay, I hear you. That's kind of the way I feel right now. I'm listening. You just listen, and I'm here. My hands are wide open. I'm ready to serve. Which direction do you want me to go? Which direction do you want us as a university to go? Yeah. Because there's such a need. You see it, but I feel like if we're quiet enough and we're still enough, be still and know that I'm God, right? Yes. That we will hear what he wants us to do with this. But we've got the foundation laid. We have our accreditors coming in a few weeks, to talk again.
We do.
Like, those things have to be put in place, I think, before we may even see the full vision and the full purpose of all of us in this. And I hope that's an acceptable answer.
Yeah,
I'm
it is
not ready to have a perfect vision.
Yeah.
I'm not.
My heart, I do appreciate corporate farming structures. Just the benefit of scale and the benefit of a lot of the resources they bring to the table for researching and developing, hopefully making our food supply healthier, safer, and more productive in its output. But this country was built not on a corporate farming structure. It was built on a family farming structure. And having my own family history somewhat connected to that kind of farming, that resonates with me. And when I say family farming, I'm not thinking of a family farming 10 to 20 acres. Even family farms have several hundred or several thousands of acres in order for them to farm at a level that support themselves. Obviously, we have two institutions in our state that have large ag programs. We cannot, nor do I think we should, try to go head-to-head with them in that kind of programming. But there are some spaces that I think even our industry leaders in the state, our political leaders, think that we can help fill. I'm pretty proud of the fact that as far as I know, to the degree that I know, we're the only Southern Baptist school, I think, that has an agribusiness program, and one of the few private Christian schools that actually has any kind of ag program. By the way, chase a rabbit here. Why are private schools not into agriculture education and training like some of the land grant? Well, obviously land grant schools have that as their charter, that's a given, but why aren't more private schools getting into this?
I think it's hard to go head-to-head with a large university that may have research farms and all that sort of stuff. And here at Williams, we actually do have access to land and, businesses that we've established through the egg production plant and the meat processing. I mean, we're right in the middle of agriculture. So we kind of have a unique point of view as far as we're in the middle of it. It's easier for us to offer that. The difference in what you're going to get at a large university, you're going to get a lecture hall for soil science that you may have 300-400 people in. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's more like 100 or 200, but that's a reality. Here at Williams, you're going to have a classroom of no more than 30, and your hands are going to be in the dirt right next to mine on the actual campus. That is not something they can do with 100 and 200 and 300 people. You cannot do it. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with Arkansas State, and there's not, or University of Arkansas, there's not. But we can offer a different type of education, and I think one that the newer generation really wants, which is experiential learning, which means just you're getting that hands-on experience. You're going to be right next to me getting dirty. You're not going to have to go through a grad student that might be teaching your class, or, you're not a number. I'm going to know your name, and I'm going to know what you want to do and what your mom and dad do, and you're going to get that personal attention, but you're also going to learn what I know, which is something that I am evolving every day, learning more and more. But you're going to see that. You're going to see the deficiencies in my knowledge that you may, as a student, have because you grew up on a specific kind of farm. So I'm encouraging that because I can get to know you, and you can actually help me teach the class. And some of my students already can, because they have different pieces, and we're going to learn together rather than me preaching at you like I would have had to do at University of Arkansas or Arkansas State.
So we're in our first semester of our new program, and I think week 4 now. You've got students in your classes.
Yes.
Are they engaging, and are they interested? I mean, are they buying into what we're doing here?
Yes. It's always slow when you first start because they
Sure.
don't trust you yet, but now they're starting to talk in class. We're going out here in a few hours to go to to go do our plant science lab in the greenhouse that's located on campus. So we're going to have our hands in the dirt today. So we're slowly, getting to become a little mini community, and I'm really proud of our students already.
I love that. So taking Dorothy Sayers for inspiration for this question, continuing to lean into this. This is the Life Work Podcast, and we are committed to exploring the Bible, God's purposes as revealed to us in His Word for a human flourishing in work as He created it to be. So when a student comes to you, or if a student, hopefully they will come to you, And they pretty much ask that question, Dr. Davis, why work? In general, and then more particularly, why work in agriculture and agribusiness? What would you tell him or her? So start with the big picture. Why should someone work?
I believe we're all called to and expected to have some vocation, especially specifically agriculture in this case, that fulfills us. It's going to give you purpose in your life. You will hear God through your work. He's going to be able to speak through the people you're helping. You're going to be helping yourself. Even though you think you're helping others, you're going to be helping yourself as well. I think it opens your mind.
That's good.
The harder you work, the more tired you are. You can start hearing and seeing and thinking things that you've never heard before. If you're constantly sitting around, you'd rather be watching TV than actually getting out and doing something. You're going to miss it. He can't work through you and then through others for you if you're not out in the world getting your hands dirty in this case.
Yeah.
And that's where I would start. But then I'd be praying for wisdom at that point because you want to touch them where they need to be touched. And that is such a humbling moment that you almost want to pray with them and say, just guide my words here, because you don't want to say something that discourages them because maybe it worked for you, but it might not work for them because they don't have the background or the support at home or wherever they're coming from. You want to meet them there. And it's so hard everybody's individually different in that way. So it's a very humbling moment if somebody were to ask me that.
So to make it a little more personal, kind of coming full circle back again, why do you work?
Goodness, I'm in the Gen X generation, so we were told that's just what you do. We were taught from a very young age, you have to work. You have to work. You have to work. And only, I would say in the latter part of my life now, at 45, have I realized...
Wait, I want to stop. You're not in the latter part of your... As someone that's a little bit older than you, you're not in the latter part of your life. I just want that.
Latter part of my work life, hopefully.
Okay.
No, that's a good point. But I mean, all the years, we always worked. It's just what was expected.
Yeah.
And reading Dorothy Sayers, and how she puts a whole nother level of why you work. And she goes in so many different directions, but ultimately it's because you've got to fulfill your calling. I mean, really. We
were created to work.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
how do we get there?
It's very clear in Genesis 1 and 2, God created us to work. It's part of what it means to bear his image. It's part of what it means to be a human being. Mm-hmm. And whether that work is paid or unpaid, whether it's vocational or leisure, we thrive when we work. In fact, I would even say the biblical ratio of work to rest is 6-1. 6 days you shall labor and rest, have Sabbath on the seventh. So apparently, God believes that work can be received and expressed in great measure, not to our harm, but to our good. So how does this translate into your own personal calling? You have shared with us in the previous podcast about your journey and how the Lord led you here. Now you're here at Williams and you are building this program. How do you envision the academic side of your program? Not that I think work is unacademic, but maybe the book learning intersecting with the hand learning and the heart learning. How are you beginning to think through this and envision it for the agribusiness program here?
That's a great question. It's really a balance. You've got to have the book learning. You have to know what, for example, parts of the plant. You can't just walk into that greenhouse and just start planting something and growing things from seed and have no idea what's going on in that plant or what it needs or what it, so there's there's book learning, but the balance is mixing it with hands-on learning. So for me with science, and also coming from a place where I described before where I didn't like science, and I realized through these years of teaching, the reason I didn't like science is because I was learning it from a book and it didn't mean anything. But once I realized, you can go see the trees, you can go see the grass, you can go work in a greenhouse, you start to see it come to life. Everything you learn comes to life when you actually are doing it and experiencing it. And so that's my vision for the program, that we're not just book learners, but we're actually doers. We're out helping. One of the things that we're going to be doing in the plant science class is, working with the mums that are out there and planting them to be sold at the local Williams Corner store. Like, the students need that hands-on experiential learning, but they also need to know what the plants mean, what they're actually working with. It can't just be one or the other. We need the book learning with the experiential learning. So it's trying to balance that and producing a student that they're not just able to answer a question about a plant, but they're actually able to show you with their hands. Because to me, that's where education really lies.
We're not there yet, but we're moving in a direction that really excites me. And that as initially when we started the Williams Works, the work education initiative we had here, it was foremost, but not exclusively, to be a financial benefit for the student, for the school, and the students' families. But as I'm growing in my own journey, my theological, biblical pilgrimage here of understanding what the Bible teaches on this, I have come to a deeper appreciation of the role of work in a university context and creating workstations, not just for the work for the financial benefit, but the work as the classroom itself, that the field, the greenhouse, that the egg production facilities, at the processing plant, or Williams Corner, or the hotel we manage, or all these other workstations, that they are actually learning environments. And our vision, our goal is for all of these and more yet to be developed will become fully integrated with our academic, the book learning, with the heart learning, with the hand learning. I don't know, I shouldn't say that. There are lots of academic programs that fit hand in glove with this, but I can't think of one better than agriculture and agribusiness. I mean, you can't learn it if you're not doing it. Is that fair?
That's fair.
So what would you tell a prospective student that is thinking about wanting, maybe exploring agriculture, agribusiness? What would you tell that female student, that male student that is thinking about it but not quite sure about if that's for them?
So agriculture is for everyone, no matter your gender, no matter your background. You do not have to grow up on a farm to love agriculture. I'm one of those people. I was around it, but I wasn't on a farm. I was called to help the farmers. My research contributed to the greater mission. And my teaching is also doing the same thing. I'm able to teach students who may or may not have realized that this is something they would like to do and to get involved in, whether it's in the actual agriculture in a field, working with the plants themselves or working with the animals themselves, or if it's actually in the business side. That's why we have an agribusiness program, because business goes hand in hand with agriculture in so many ways. Even if you own your own family farm, you still need to know accounting, you still need to know economics.
Absolutely.
So we're able to provide all of that experience, and we have great faculty who can do that. But I would tell students, give us a chance, come and do something a little different. You're welcome to go to the bigger universities and sit in those lecture halls, but we're actually going to, here at Williams, take you outside, and we're going to show it to you. We're going to introduce you to people that you need to know to be successful.
Oh, I love that. I love the statement, called to help the farmer. That just deeply resonates with me. I'm so glad the Lord led you here. I'm so glad that you were helping build this program. Thank you for coming and heeding God's call to share with us in this and helping us launch what I think is a much needed, and I hope and pray a much received program here at Williams.
Well, thank you for allowing me to do so.
You're welcome.